Portage County Board of Supervisors meeting, recorded March 19, 2024.
O'clock, we'll call the Portage County Board to order. And the clerk will call the roll.
We have 21 present in person, 3 attending online, Supervisors Hakala, Laddick, and Bataki, and 1 excused, Supervisor Sislevich.
Pledge to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
indivisible, with liberty for all.
You have noticed Maria's not here tonight. She's on vacation, so Lee is all by himself. Oh, maybe I got the wrong one. Oh, this one. Can you hear me? Okay.
Now we can.
Lee is all by himself. Maria's on vacation, so we have to be a little patient in case something goes awry. He's got, looks like Control Central up here. So. Members of the public who wish to address the county board on specific agenda items must register requests at this time, with such comments subject to reasonable control of the committee chair as set forth in the Robert's Rules of Order. I want to remind the public of our ordinance 3.1.48. Public comment is limited to specific agenda items. Parens C, speaker must verbally state their name and address. D, speaker must make all remarks only to the chair. E, board members shall not engage in questions, discussion, nor debate or with speaker during the period of public comments. F, speaker may not yield time to others. H, no person in attendance at the meeting shall engage in applause or heckling in response to a speaker's comments. Speakers shall not use obscene, profane, insulting, or threatening language, nor engage in conduct that is threatening, loud, boisterous, or disruptive. And again, I want to remind everybody that they have 3 minutes. I had reminded the folks last time, and there was 3 people. I waited until 30 seconds after the 3 minutes were up, asked them to wrap it up, had to ask 3 times. So it's disrespectful to this body and the rest of the people that need to speak. So therefore, again, I am going to hold that to a 3-minute deadline. And you have the list, Lee?
Yep.
Go ahead.
First up, we have Nancy C. Beggs Willoughby, followed by Nancy Roppy.
My name is Nancy Biggs Willoughby. I live at 3338 Belts Avenue, Stevens Point, Wisconsin. I'm here to address number 6 issue, the Portage County home. I'm a little confused as a voter because I remember voting on this resolution twice, and the people passed it with a majority that the committee was going to look into the home and rebuilding the home while one part, the old part, stayed until they get the new part done, and then they would tear that down and do that part. And so I'm wondering why they want to sell this 5-star home that they haven't even had an audit on to know the value of the property to start with, why they would want to sell it when it's a 5-star home to become a 1 or a 2-star home. There's several homes in the area. I'm a chaplain of the auxiliary, and I visit them often, and some of the 1-star homes are like Auschwitz. So I don't know why you would want to take a home where they're getting good care, good food, and just throw it away. It could be the gem of Portage County. They could redo this home. They could build a state-of-the-art laundry, make money off of doing laundry for their facility and other homes in the area. They could build a state-of-the-art kitchen because they have wonderful food already, and make more wonderful food and distribute it to the homes in the area that have terrible, horrible food. I'm just saying, I think the committee should look into this like the voters wanted. And I hope that everyone remembers you were sent here by the voters. And so when you come in that door, your personal opinions should be left behind and the will of the people should be considered. Thank you.
Next up is Nancy Roppy, followed by Ann Miebrecht.
Nancy Roppy, 925 Smith Street, Stevens Point, Agenda Item 6. At the March 11th joint meeting, the proposed buyer's pitiful track record was revealed. County Executive Pavelski was asked a direct question. Was he aware of this? And if he was, what had he been doing for the last 5 months? Before Mr. Pavelski could eke out an answer, Mr. Ramakrishna snatched the microphone and gave a non-answer on his behalf. Reinhardt handles real estate and healthcare transactions, not acting as a paid spokesperson for the perpetually struggling Mr. Pavelski. What did Mr. Pavelski know, and when did he know it? If he knew this buyer's history, but still pushed this attempted sale, putting everyone through this exercise in futility, spending tax dollars on outside attorneys, paying per diem for supervisors to attend unnecessary closed-door meetings, it is beyond incompetence and he should resign. If he didn't know, he should have. He should have done a bare minimum of due diligence within his own office. And if he didn't, it amounts to incompetence and he should resign. If legal advice was needed, rely on the 4 attorneys and 3 legal associates in the Corp Counsel's office to perform a simple Google search. Reinhardt isn't working pro bono. They bill us for every trip from Madison. Senator Tammy Baldwin confirmed federal money is available to help build a new healthcare center. I passed this information on, but was told current county leadership won't allow staff to pursue our tax dollars. With that money, we might not need to go back to referendum, but we'll never know. You're satisfied with this broker, with this buyer? Reliable information discovered through public due diligence efforts at no cost to the county was shared with all of you. Did you review it or choose to remain willfully ignorant? Why would anyone move to Portage County when you won't fund childcare, you frustrate clean water efforts, attempt to reduce the caliber of elder care and quality of life in general? Absolutely no one will move here because of a great new jail. Stop this complete waste of time and money. Vote no on Agenda Item 6 or be voted out on April 2nd. For Agenda Item number 7, a serious lack of transparency exists that invites and deserves withering criticism. Instead of further restricting public comment and participation with vague and subjectively worded resolutions to crack down on dissent, how about if you can't take the heat, stay out of the kitchen?
We have Ann Miebrecht, followed by Mary Ann Leszewski.
Hi, my name is Ann Melbrick. I live at Haga Drive in Plover, Wisconsin. I was hired as the accounting specialist at the nursing home 25 years ago. We are one of the few departments who produce any of the revenue towards their budgets. In fact, in the past, we generated almost 90% of the needed money to operate. Unlike other departments who rely almost entirely on tax dollars, departments such as the county exec, the HR department, the treasurer's department, the IT department, the finance department. These department wages, salaries total just over $3 million for approximately 35 staff. Our wages, salaries total $3.7 million for 48 full-time equivalent staff. This $1.88 million offer seems extremely low considering our accounts receivable is around $700,000. It is true that I only bill out about $3.6 million a year since we capped our census at 30 and closed a unit. However, I used to bill out almost $10 million a year with lower reimbursement rates than we have now. From our budget, we also pay $200,000 to facilities. We pay for a half a position in the HR department. We pay $300,000 to other contracted services, which I believe include money to the IT department. Will these departments be cutting staff without our money, or will additional tax dollars be pushed to them? Wood County manages to keep their county-run SNF. Their revenue projection is $6.4 million, and they list their expenses at $7.3. They have managed to update Edgewater and build a new jail without a referendum. In 1920, after the original Poor Farm burned down, the county board passed a resolution that cities, towns, villages be required to pay for their charges, and a new place would be built for them in the county. A lot of you act like we are filled with people from out of state or from other counties, but that barely happens. We might get someone from another state for a short time because they had an accident while they were visiting here. Or we might get someone whose children live in the area and they want to move a parent closer. We might get someone from another county because there is no bed available for them in theirs. You're perfectly fine sending our residents to them, yet balk at taking them in. Thank you.
Mary Ann Lashewski, followed by Miranda Hemrick.
I ask the indulgence of those who heard these comments at the March 11th joint meeting, and I'm also asking that we review the January 21st through January 24th Medicare inspections of properties that were either owned by Sam Folman or ones that he worked at. While he was working at and not owning Bedford Home at Fort Atkinson, it had a no-star rating granted to it, though it did have more than double the state average of deficiencies at 16, and the state average is 6.8. It also had 9 building violations, and the state average is 4.6. It had a 50% more turnover of staff than the state average. 16 deficiencies included infection prevention, quality of care, accident hazards, medication errors, respiratory trach care, and excessive use of drugs. While he was working at and not owning healthcare in Waukegan, Illinois, it had a 3-star overall rating and 2-star for staffing. They had 19 deficiencies. State average is 12.6. There was poor cleaning and upkeep of the building. A new resident needed to have his wife and daughter come to clean his room and bed before he could accept it. While Mr. Folman was owning Waterfall at Brown Deer, it had a 1-star rating, much below average. They had 15 citations, and the state average is 8. Most were for infection control. Serious health and safety violations or failure to correct over a long period of time results in fines or denied Medicare payments. Fines incurred against Waterfall in the past 3 years totaled $715,000 plus. 3 of the fines were for $128,000, $254,000, and $276,000. There were 3 denials for Medicare payment, and the citations included poor infection control, rooms not the cleanest, pressure sore wrists, daily care, and others. Medication errors were 14.7, and the state average is 5.6. And while he was owning Algoma Medicare Center, it had a 3-star rating and had 21 fire and safety emergency preparedness violations. While owning Waterfall at Wausau, he had a 1-star rating and 22 citations. The Wisconsin average is 6. Most were for patient care, such as not. Also, there was no certified dietary manager in the house or sufficient training of dietary staff. A temporary dietitian covers remotely 1 day a month. Manager has been gone for a year, and the administrator is the acting dietary manager. The aides train the new staff. Storing, preparing, and food and water temperatures, distributing of food, and serving food were not according to professional standards and can affect all 33 clients. Also, poor oral care, incomplete covering on way to showers, Foley bags not covered, poor response to call light, up to 1.5 hours recorded for 1 resident. The facility does not ensure an RN on duty a minimum of 8 hours a day, 7 days a week. For 7 days, they did not have an RN on site, and often it occurred on weekends.
Mary Ann, please wrap it up.
Yes, I am just about done. We need to take seriously the red flags that these properties are caring, enforcement of adequate staffing, quality care, dietary practices, safety needs affect the quality of life for these residents. And I would like to just add that there's a correction to the communication I mailed to you. It indicated that Mr. Folin owned all 5 locations, whereas the correction is he was employed at Fort Atkinson and Waukegan and owned the other 3. Thank you.
Miranda Hemrick, followed by Alexander McCumber.
Hi, my name is Miranda. I live in Junction City. I have been an employee for the past 18 years as a nurse at the county. I enjoy my job. I do not want to lose my job. I want to continue with the same amount of care that the residents have been receiving for the past 18 plus years that I have been there. You do not understand the anxiety that you are causing to the staff. We are starting to think, do we have to look for another job now? Do we want to wait until this goes through? We don't know what to do. But the worst part is the anxiety that is being caused to the residents. They're like, who's going to take care of us now? Well, we're going to try to stay, but we're not guaranteed our job. Yes, we're promised that we might be getting a raise, and he's thinking of maybe keeping most of us, but I'm there 18 years. I might be one of the first ones to leave. Family and friends are always asking me what is going on at this place. I don't know what to tell them because I feel like we have been left in the dark. We are a nonprofit organization. He wants to be a for-profit organization. Right now, we're running in the red. How can he make it a profit when we are running in the red presently? Another thing that has happened is housekeeping has been outsourced a number of years ago. And I think it was maybe a year ago, we outsourced the kitchen. Since March 1st, it has been a disaster. Cooks have been leaving. They cannot hold on to any of the staff. It's a very sad situation. According to what I heard today, it is getting a little better in the kitchen. But when we have to wait for food or the wrong orders are being sent to us, that is not a way to treat the elderly. Another thing is our boiler, that we have asked for how long for a new boiler, because in the spring, it's too cold, and in the fall, it's too cold or too hot. We have asked for that boiler. Nope, that just keeps getting kicked down the road. Our windows are not very good. We actually take blankets and lay it on the seal, so cold air is not blowing on my residents. What kind of life? They have given up their life to come and live with us, and I still want to continue that excellent care we give, so please vote accordingly. Thank you.
Alexander McCumber, followed by Mary Zinda.
Hello, Alexander McCumber, 2633 Helen Street, Stevens Point. My family and I strongly support the Portage County Healthcare Center. It has been an asset in the community for ages. I have family that have been there. I have friends who have been there. It has served a tremendous need in the community for top-notch quality nursing care as well as rehab care, which is a significant need in the community. If you can't get it here, you have to go somewhere else as far away as the Fox Valley to go and get the kind of quality care we have right here, right now. On the proposal that the gentleman who's allegedly going to buy this thing has, it would in theory actually take away a number of those services as they're not profitable. Now, I don't know exactly what happens to the people who are there who get those kind of services now if those services go away, or what happens to the staff who work there and give those services out now, but that's not a good place to be for our community. Ultimately, the Portage County Healthcare Center is a community asset, and speaking as someone who's voted in a whole bunch of these referendums, we voted in favor of not only buying and installing a new one, building a new one, adding on to the budget in a couple of places. I think the overall feeling of the community is that they want to keep this thing here in Portage County to continue to serve our residents going on into the future. And I would say if there's any question about that, that should be brought up in an actual referendum to the people of Portage County. Let the people decide if they want to keep it or sell it. I'm very puzzled as to why there's an effort to even sell the thing in the first place without the people of the county all going, oh, we want to get rid of it. If nobody's really pushing that angle, then we should either find out what's going on there or, maybe not sell the thing if it's not yours to sell. Anyway, I'll wrap that up there. Thank you all so much for your time.
Mary Zinda, followed by Alva Clymer.
My name is Mary Zinda, and I live on Pleasant View Drive in Stevens Point. I believe our community is a caring community. We care about the less fortunate. We have organizations here that prove it. We have Operation Bootstrap, the Evergreen Initiative. In fact, we even reach out to the Nicaragua Partnership. When we took the vote about this, it was around 60% of the people of Portage County wanted to keep the facility. I don't understand what's happening. There are individuals that really need this service. I have a few questions about this. First of all, why wasn't, if it was to be sold, put on the open market? Why is it secretly being negotiated? And after, if this facility is taken over, will it remain a healthcare center? Is that part of the agreement? And why are we dealing with a company with such low ratings? I hope you reconsider and vote what our community wants. Thank you.
Alva Clymer, followed by Tori Jennings.
Hi, I'm Alva Clymer. I live at 1815 County K, Custer. Everyone has spoken again so well on so many issues. I guess I'd like to kind of look at that sales that we're talking about of the property. We've got 16 acres of prime land in the city of Stevens Point. I haven't seen anybody show comparables that you could compare it with. And yet, why would we take, and I don't want to repeat what everyone else has said, take a 5-star facility and sell it to someone who has little experience of running at least a 3 or 4-star facility and sell it to them for under $2 million with all of the furnishings, everything that's in the about 12 or 14-year-old outbuilding, with the problems we've had with boilers and as busy as our maintenance men have been. I can only guess it's got a fortune in equipment to try to keep things patched together. They've done a great job. But if the Portage County Home were to sell it to somebody more qualified, I really can't see why they need 16 acres of land. You could have a 40-bed facility, and I think put that onto 5 acres. You've got a corner piece of property. I know I was out there walking that last Tuesday as I was going to have, I won't go into a long story, got only 3 minutes, but you go across that bridge, there's a low spot. That could be fill in there, and it would make great business property. There's so many things. If we have to give up, the people didn't vote for a 1-star facility. I think they would say then take that land, make the money that it's really worth selling for, and help the people of Portage County Home. Help them build another facility. No one has tried to get any money to help build it. They've been blocked, and then I've been told that we voted twice for referendums, but we weren't educated enough to know what we were voting for. Well, I'll tell you what, You put that on the ballot in November, and I think you'll see who's educated. They'll vote to keep it. But I would never sell that 16 acres of land regardless what you do. You've got so many obstacles to... Pardon? Okay. Remember, cash is king, but land is gold. It's called location, location. Thank you.
Tori Jennings, followed by John Bertelson.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm speaking on agenda item number 10. I wonder if the county could be less transparent and more Machiavellian than it's being tonight by burying a funding decision for land for a new jail in the budget amendments rather than making it an agenda item. I came here planning to address some of the misleading statements made last month about this land purchase, things like bus routes, response times, et cetera, but I'll focus on just one thing. Wisconsin Statute 59.20 sub 3, which states that the sheriff and a number of Justice Center offices must be in the county seat. Where this may possibly not apply is when no offices exist, which is not the case here. So because this has not been discussed, you may be buying land that you can't do what you want to with it. Also, I am curious to know if any Wisconsin counties have their jail not in the county seat. As of a call today to the DOC, that individual didn't know of any, but they were researching it. Thank you.
John Bertelson, followed by Mildred Neville.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. John Bertelson, 3300 Arborvitae Lane, Plover, Wisconsin. And this is a photo of me and the guy I'm guardian for, Mr. Francis Polson, taken November 28th, 2023. And this is some paperwork from Portage County saying I'm his legal guardian. And this is an interesting document from Portage County that says the county itself is his guardian under protective services. Francis, Mr. Polson, is a special case, Mr. Chairman. And he's in the best place possible, and it's being provided by Clark County. I do not know if it's the Clark County taxpayers that are helping subsidize it or Portage County. I don't have those details yet. But it is a wonderful facility. And the point I want to make tonight is Clark County does not have to run a skilled care facility all alone, because no matter who does it, it's going to be a money-losing proposition. You really need other services that will help buffer that loss. Clark County can do it. Bethany can do it in Waupaca. I see no reason why Portage County can't do that too. I spent the day yesterday for a couple reasons. One was to check out the facility. Francis is doing well. That was the best part of the day. But then I also have a cousin in Eau Claire. Her name is Bana. And I needed to go see the hospital that's closing down because I got a letter from Sacred Heart saying, Mr. Guardian, Medicare is paying the bills, but Mr. Polson's for-profit insurance will not cover what they're supposed to. Well, that's interesting. So I contacted the for-profit insurance company, and they did not even recognize me as guardian. So I sent them the paperwork and heard nothing. This week, that hospital is being shut down. So I needed to get over there and find their business office. Everybody is bugged out. There is no business office. I go to two people in the ER. I pull up my ID. They said, that's not necessary, Mr. Guardian, Mr. Bertelson. It is on our computer. You are the guardian. And good news, there's a zero balance. Okay, the for-profit insurance company did what they were supposed to do. But the government provided Medicare, I do not have to worry about. If I fight against anyone, it's the for-profit insurance company. The government facilities get bashed a lot, but I suggest we look at what they're dealing with the for-profit companies and see where the true waste is. Finally, Bana took me to Dove Healthcare. Dove is a company that's expanding in western Wisconsin, and I am very curious to see if they want to expand into central Wisconsin, and I will get details on that. I will get details from Clark County if we want to go with that model. Thank you for the time tonight. I wish you well in your meeting, and take care. Happy spring.
Mildred Neville, followed by Representative Katrina Shankland.
Mildred Neville, 1709 Jefferson Street, Stevens Point. First, I'd like to just make a quick comment that I hope you really listened closely to what Tori Jennings had to say on item 10 and that purchase. That seems extremely important. Secondly, on item number 6, I think we need to let the health care center go to referendum before a decision is made about what to do there. And I also want to second the comments that have already been made about numerous problems with the way this is being handled. And then I'd like to speak to item number 7, which is the ordinance changes that are being made to 3.1.48. We aren't giving enough time to look carefully at ordinance changes. This came up a few days before the Executive Ops Committee. It got discussed there, and then you got it in your packet a short time before this meeting. It wasn't enough time to look carefully. You guys have a lot of other things you do besides read your packet. I do not think it has been carefully addressed, what's under that resolution. The specific item that I have the most problem with is number 7. Now, this is item 7 on the agenda, and this is number 7 under that item. There is an addition being made to say at the beginning of that ordinance, quote, as a general rule. Saying as a general rule really brings lots of shakiness and fogginess into what is going to follow. And then the second sentence under 7 has been stricken out. Okay, it's not there anymore. That sentence really makes it clear to every person what the effect is if the county is not being fully transparent and clear with what's going on in these meetings. It says things are null and void. Our court counsel says that's surplusage, not necessary. Sort of like everybody knows that. But you read it in that second sentence, it got there through a court counsel at some point, and it needs to stay there and not be removed. So please do not add as a general rule and do not strike the second sentence. Thank you.
Representative Katrina Shankland, followed by Colin Kobashop.
Great. Good evening, everybody. I'm Katrina Shankland, Stevens Point. I represent 60,000 people in Portage County in the Wisconsin State Assembly, and I have been weighing in and chatting with folks on the healthcare center for about 7 years and received a lot of constituent feedback. So I'm mostly here to share some of that as well as my own thoughts. So weighing in on the prospective sale of the Portage County Healthcare Center, item number 6. Unfortunately, throughout this process, I believe there's been a series of missteps and, to put it plainly, a lack of thoughtful oversight about the unintended consequence of selling the Portage County Healthcare Center. So putting aside the fact that there was not a fair, open, or transparent RFP process for any potential buyer of the healthcare center, which is a serious ethical problem of its own, if the county board passes this resolution today and the sale of the healthcare center moves forward, I believe the county could be at risk of litigation for not following 2 voter-approved binding referendums, and this is something you need to look into. In 2018, we know that Portage County voters overwhelmingly voted to raise the levy limits, and I was heavily involved in moving that referendum forward. I even helped change the law to make it easier for counties to go to referendum the next year. In 2022, Portage County voters again voted to approve even more money, $90 million over 20 years, to fund operations even build, as we know, a new facility. And the only reason a new referendum isn't happening this April to adjust for the inflationary costs of building a new center is because you all, members of this county board, wanted to move the vote until November. Supervisor Soik quoted in January, if we truly want to make the vote, take this to the voters, then we should take it to as many voters as possible, and that would be in November, when we'll have 100% more voter turnout. So if you truly want to take this to as many voters as possible, but tonight you're voting on a statement, a letter of intent to move forward within 60 days, that forecloses on the opportunity of a referendum and ensuring that we build a new healthcare center. So I'm very concerned about that because you're essentially going against the will of the voters twice, and these are binding referenda. So I asked our nonpartisan attorneys at the legislature, legislative council, they confirmed to me that by ignoring the will of the voters, the Portage County Board and Executive could be opening up the county to costly lawsuits that could result in a court requiring the county to act in accordance with the voter-approved referendums anyway. Essentially, what it would do is they would have to issue a writ of mandamus as a court, which is an action a court may take to compel compliance with a plain legal duty. That's described as an extraordinarily legal remedy. It's only available in limited situations, but this has happened before, and I have a memo from the council detailing these concerns and potential problems for you all to consider. And some of you may say, well, I just found out about this. There's no time, and that's the point. There is no reason to proceed with voting on the letter of intent today. Not only did this not go out to RFP, not only did people not know about it, but members of the public aren't aware either, and they deserve to have a chance to weigh in. Every member of this board has a fiduciary duty to taxpayers, and they also have a duty to abide by all voter-approved ordinances and resolutions, which includes referenda. So any logical person, regardless of where they stand on this issue of county ownership of the healthcare center, can see that it does not make sense to move forward on a letter of intent to one buyer without having gone to bid to others, without having done due diligence on the legal liability and
Please wrap it up.
cost to ignore binding referenda, and without having scheduled or approved the referenda that you all said you wanted to have happen in November to build a new facility. So that series of facts, I hope we can agree on. The county should make the best possible decision for the greatest number of voters and taxpayers while also mitigating legal risk and leveling the playing field.
Please
for
wrap it
everyone.
up.
Businesses, homeowners, voters, families, and workers. So I urge you to vote no today on moving forward with the letter of intent. Thank you so much, and happy to send the memo if anyone's interested.
Colin Kobishop, followed by Andrea Olson.
Hi, my name is Colin Kolbishop. I have property in Plover and also in the city of Stevens Point. I am not for the sale. I'm not for keeping the nursing home, but I'm concerned about the property that's attached to the nursing home. Let's go through a little history of our country. 1871, we became the United States of America Incorporated. 1913, we had a Federal Reserve for the third time, which we had a foreign bank which borrowed money to the United States of America. 1971, we went off the gold standard, went to a full fiat currency. If you look at your dollar, any bill that we have, what does it say at the top? It says Federal Reserve Note. It's a borrowed piece of money. If we sell this, we're getting junk money. It's backed by nothing. The Indians thought it was garbage. They used to burn it. So, as for the nursing home itself, I was doing some research on other counties. Other counties that sold their nursing home seem to end up getting screwed in the process, that there was some under the table money that got handed to the new owner to sell, to buy the property. If we keep it, maybe there's some underhand stuff going under, or underhand things are happening with some contractors. We're kind of in a no-win position. But I will say this, let's look at the city of Stevens Point. Do some of you realize 40-some% of the city of Stevens Point residents are retired, own their own house, on a fixed income, and are close to losing their house? That's where we're at. We have a school board which wants a referendum of 14 million. We want the city of Stevens Point to do some road work, right? We want a new jail. We want to do something, say, with the Portage County home. Let's say that's $200 million. How are those people who right now are on the verge of losing their house, who own their house right now, going to be able to afford this? So I personally think we need to stop. We need to really do analysis on everything that we do. Because the United States of America Incorporated is bankrupt. Last year in 2023, it had $1 trillion. Again, $1 trillion worth of interest they had to pay. I don't care what some federal senator says, that there's so much money that we can get out to nursing homes. The federal government doesn't have the money, people. Neither do some of the residents of the city of Stevens Point, maybe even some of you. This is where we're at. So, again, I'm more concerned about the land that's there, not the building, keep it or not, but the actual woods that attached to it. Is it 16 acres, wherever it is? So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Andrew Olson.
Andrea Olson, 410 Franklin Street, Stevens Point. I'm going to speak on 6 and 10. So I almost didn't come tonight because I've been so discouraged by our leadership here, or at least some of our leadership here, and how pretty much no matter what we do, we come into these meetings, we say some things, and some people keep reiterating the same things, asking the same leading questions to get the same leading answers all the time. And some of these people are also appointed to their positions on this board. And you can tell by their quantitative results, watch how they've been voting. They vote the same on all these specific topics based on what agendas some people have been pushing. So with the Portage County home, I'm torn on this because we are spending a lot of money per bed now and in the future. My gut says sell. I didn't vote for the funding for it. However, I didn't win there. The rest of the people in our community voted and it was approved. So, you know what? The referendum passed, citizens spoke, funding is now short. Now suddenly the county we're selling. We're selling to somebody that doesn't have a good track record. We're told too that there's no way for us to look into this individual either and his track record, because that's what happens after you sign the letter of intent. That's not true. Did you guys approve an architect without looking into their background? Do you just say, okay, we're going to hire this person? No, you looked into their background. Multiple people were there. There were multiple bids. This situation, that didn't occur. This is a pocket sale. Nobody else was looked into. We don't even know if there's other people that might be interested in buying it. So if you are selling, at least have it on open market. Do the research on the person because you're elected. It's your job as elected not to just look at your packet, not just look at that filtered information that is given to you. Do your job. Look into some of these topics before the meeting. Don't just review the topic at the meeting. When something is a red flag, you're getting calls from your constituents and other people, go online, simple Google research, the person's first name and last name. Then you find out, oh, they also have a different first name that they go by. Oh, their wife has a different first name that they go by. So then you end up with all this information, levels and levels of LLCs and other associations for these people. And you know what? That took me 10 minutes. If you don't have 10 minutes to spend on this topic, you probably should resign. You probably shouldn't run. And if the issue is that you don't have the time, maybe you shouldn't be running here and also on be a Village of Plover trustee too. Because now you also have conflicts of interest and you should be abstaining on, let's go to number 10, the vote for the amendment. Mr. Haga and Mr. Fritz are both Village of Plover trustees. How can you separate your mind? I'm in this meeting, we don't talk here. I'm in this meeting, we don't talk here, or I don't know what I talked about here over here.
Please wrap it up.
And then you have somebody bragging about that they did zoning for the Village of Plover for years and years and years. Well, that person that did their Village of Plover zoning information is also the person that is able to keep their minds
Please
separate
wrap it
at a
up.
village and county meeting. Somehow they can do that. And somehow land is being purchased, possibly, or maybe not. But
Please
somebody
wrap
should
it up.
abstain too from voting tonight. Thank you.
Mr. Warzella, you had signed up to speak. Oh,
Two more that did not sign up in the other room.
okay. Mr. Warzella, you signed up. You are on the agenda. Are there other topics that are on this agenda that you wanted to speak to?
This is more of a private.
So you are on the agenda. This will not pertain to you then. I'll call on you after we're done with this.
States your name.
Good evening, everyone.
My
name is Julian Pollock. I'm 1708 Fremont Street.
Can you spell your last name, please?
Pollock. Good evening, everyone. My name is. You're set for me? Okay. Good evening, everyone. My name is Julian Pollock. I've been a mailman in Stevens Point for the past 3 years, and I've lived here all my life. I'm speaking tonight because over the course of the past few months, I've become increasingly disgusted by the absurd tactics being used to force a sale of the healthcare center to an unqualified peddler of one-star service, a sale for a pittance, a sale the voters have twice told their representatives is unwarranted and unnecessary. We are willing to fund five-star service in this county. County Executive Pavelski's courting of the letter of intent on tonight's agenda represents the latest example of his total reluctance to do his job and adhere to the wishes of the public that elected him. It's obvious It's obvious that this process is being rushed through the board tonight in a naked and shameful attempt to circumvent the April 2nd election that will change the makeup of the board. Why are you afraid of the results of the April election, Mr. Pavelski? It's already clear which sitting board members are actually interested in representing their districts and which are going to have to be replaced for a functioning county government. In April. So I'll end my comments tonight with a simple message for anybody who votes to move ahead with the LOI tonight. You've made me ashamed of a community that I love, the community that raised me. Shame on you.
My name is Bill Bushman. I'm at 5516 Elmwood Avenue, Stevens Point, Wisconsin. I'm going to discard what I had written. I've heard a lot of comments tonight. Am I too tall? Well, I'll start again. I'm about halfway through here. Bill Bushman, 5516 Elmwood Avenue, Stevens Point. And as I said, I'm going to abandon my little script. I've heard a lot of negativity, some positivity. Some of the positivity I've extracted, I think, from my little presentation. And I agree. I think the vote on the LOI should be postponed. I think there needs to be more discussion. I will admit I'm in favor of selling the facility if we can find a viable and a fair deal buyer. I don't think we can continue to subsidize the facility at the rate that we are subsidizing. And I'm not sure that anybody can convince me that we will ever break even on that facility. If we can, great, continue. But I just think you need to take a little more time, postpone this, whether it's 60 days, 90 days. I don't know what the legal aspect is from an LOI standpoint of trying to postpone it. I'm guessing that we have the right to do that. And in the same time, maybe put this out to the marketplace, get an appraisal. You know, let's do our due diligence also as part of this process. And if we can come to a common ground solution, 90 days, 120 days, then let's move forward accordingly. But let's just not make a decision one way or the other at this point. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. That's it, Sheriff?
Yes.
Thank you. Public notice agenda items. Number 1, Dan Warzella, citizen request agenda item pursuant to Portage County Ordinance 3.1.48, parens 5. And as well, Mr. Warzella, you have 3 minutes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hi, once again, I'm Dan Warzella from 4149 Bluebird Drive. I, ex-wife and 5 children resided at that address. Also have Impressions Hair Salon where I raised my 5 children as a work-at-home dad. The issue started when they decided to widen County R. The road was shot, it needed it. However, first I was threatened I either give them land or the county always gets what they want. And that's exactly what some particular highway commissioner intended to do. Originally, there was a fence put up indicating where my property lines were, where my survey poles are still located. Prior to this construction, I had Rosicki Landscaping and Surveying come in and confirm that these poles were original. They were not only mine, but my parents and their great uncle and aunt before them. been in the family a long time. Many maps, many surveyors to prove this. Short weekend when I was out of town with my family, my kids, county trucks came in or hired excavation. I did have video surveillance. They went ahead and bulldozed out every survey pole except the one on the corner of Bluebird and County R. I was extremely upset. They cut down trees that were huge, provided a lot of shade. This sidewalk, this road goes alongside of my home. There is no privacy. You can see into my back hot tub room, atrium, master bedrooms. It's a huge house and you can see clear through it. There is no privacy left. I guess I was the only one also to be privileged enough to have snow fence put up all alongside of my home, which is still there. It's been in the paper, on the internet, in many places. The construction is done, life in control, and go on as normal. It's not. I've got huge signs that say construction area, do not enter without authorization. That's me. That's my kids. That's my family. When they were done closing the roads, I had a hard time surviving with my business. I'm self-employed. I don't have any backup income. So it's just me. My oldest son tries to help a lot. I babysit my grandchildren. I try to take the burden of money off them. This house means a lot to me and my future family. It is also passed down to my son and his my grandchildren. I've tried many times to communicate with Highway Commissioner. I've tried to find someone over him to have sort of a meeting. And my comments always were, all of your surveyors and all of your parents and all the land that you have, even the last ones, Rosicki, that did this, are all wrong. We have our satellite pictures that indicate your land is way back here. And if we wanted to, we can cut down that whole row of blue spruce trees because technically that's on our land also. That's a threat. So I've had that a few times in the past with Portage County. One or twice were accidental, landed up getting an attorney, fighting for my land. I was forced to cover my home when I first built it. Well, I'm going to just continue. I'm running out of time. If anybody wants to see where it is, corner of R and Bluebird, 4149 Bluebird Drive. I am asking the chair for direction after this and a place where I can possibly resolve these issues without going back to civil court. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Correspondence, number 2, office, Portage County Clerk, out of office resolutions. And number 3 is presentation by Sheriff Mike Lucas, Portage County Sheriff's Office, 2023 Annual Report.
3 minutes. 3 minutes. I'll oblige. Thank you. I hope that everybody had an opportunity to have an opportunity to read the annual report that I posted for the county board meeting tonight. I will touch some of the highlights. I know you guys have a long meeting, so I will do some of that. And then if you have so many questions at the end, feel free. As you can see in regards to the big picture, the Portage County last year, we got the PSAP grant that enhanced our 911 to the SCNet so that we can do the text pictures 911, which has been very productive throughout Portage County. We also were approved the second drug officer, which now is in full effect. So we have that enacted throughout Portage County. We were able to secure the grant through Ron Kind back in 2022 for the $616,000 for the body cams and in-car cameras. And that was fully implemented now due to production of equipment. But that is all instrumental now for our squads and also for the officers and also the corrections division. We are starting the hazardous mitigation plan this year, which is an 18 to 24 month plan. So our emergency management is going to be extremely busy and working with all the towns and villages and municipalities to get that taken care of. We had numerous donations throughout the year that assisted us in regards to operations and security measures throughout Portage County. So we are very thankful for the very generous donations of many people throughout Portage County. And then we also were able to add that 4th communication supervisor position to try to alleviate some of the turnover that we were getting in the comm center. So those are some of the big things on the horizon. On page 4, you can see some of the staff levels. That is an ongoing battle, not only for the sheriff's office, but for every department here in Portage County and every business, I think, nowadays. It is a different workforce out there. We had numerous people retire in the patrol division. We are just about getting full on that coming up by this summer. Corrections, we had a huge turnover last year, and we are, I think, one away from full staff. So it's been very productive. We are getting very qualified applicants, and we are working hand in hand with Kurt Hoyer over there at Midstate in regards to being very involved with the academies for deputies, and also with Midstate Technical College to get our people in there to get notoriety for them and to see what the job is like. Communications, we have been 6 short since 2015, and we were 5 short, and now we're going to be 6 short because somebody's retiring April 1st. So we are constantly working to get that communications level up to full staff. The problem is we can only train 2 at a time. By the time we do a 16-week training of 2 people, somebody is either leaving or retiring lately. So we have qualified applicants. I have numerous on the ready to be hired, and so we are looking forward to this year trying to get it up to full staff. You can see on the next page it talks about some injuries. We had an uptick in injuries last year with our officers and our corrections officers, and you can see some of that. You can also see added to the annual report was requested by the county board was the use of force. And you can see the majority of our use of force is in the jail for unruly inmates. So you can see in regards to our use of force that goes on. The next couple pages talks about the sheriff's office. You can see the operational chart, and then it talks about on page 10 about the operations division itself. You can see that the patrol division consists of 22 deputies, 2 community DNR rec officers, 4 patrol supervisors, and 3 shift commanders. It's approximately 810 square miles that they patrol. We have, 3 or 4 law enforcement offices or different municipal departments, which is very unlike any other county in the state. Usually there's 7 to 10. If you look at the surrounding counties, that's about how many different law enforcement office there is throughout the county. So we are unique in that sense in regards to only having that few police departments. We have 17 townships, 10 incorporated municipalities, 10 unincorporated villages, and the population is approximately 71,000. The new positions that you requested 2 years ago in regards to the community DNR has been very successful in regards to getting on the community, assisting highway. Just last year alone, those officers on the highway patrol had 120 traffic stops, 35 tickets, and 85 warnings. And it's slowed down, and it's made a great difference in regards to the construction areas. The next 2 pages talks about our canines. We have 2 canines. We have Indy and we have Lexa. Lexa was new in June, and you can see that with them they have had 157 deployments last year, and you can see what they recovered through their deployments on that next page, on page 11. Then we have the community resource program, so it's near and dear to my heart because I did that for like 10 years. We service all those schools that are on page 13. And on 14, you can see all the students that we service in regards to the programs and the safety programs that are done throughout the schools. These are really what I call the first opportunity for our officer to make an impression on these students in law enforcement, and not in a negative impact. So then you can see on the next couple pages some of the pictures of our people doing some of the community activities. And then you can talk about page 17, our detective bureau. And on that it says we have 4 detectives, 1 drug officer. In 24 we have 2 drug officers and a supervisor, detective sergeant. In that you can see on page 18 the drug activity throughout Portage County. And as I stated last year, the methamphetamine has gone extremely up. And as you can see, the grams from methamphetamine last year almost doubled. It's 5,344 grams that were recovered and seized. The heroin and crack and regular cocaine has gone, or plateaued, has not gone up, but the methamphetamine has really drastically increased. Let me go. Court Services Unit, the people that you see up here, our Court Service Sergeant right back there, and we have actually 4 with one, our Community Service, our Community Resource Officer is actually in this division also. They are in charge of bringing inmates up, transporting inmates throughout the state to and from institutions, and the community officer assists along with being in the schools. And as you can see that our deputies traveled over 65,000 miles, logging 2,253 hours, transporting 1,188 inmates in 2023. You can also see on page 22 that they screened over 32,000 people here on the second floor for not just meetings, but for court activity during normal business hours. Communication Center on page 24. August 23rd was a big day for Portage County because we lost Denise Nash, who was our community manager, or comm manager for many years. Stephanie Laug took that position over on August 23rd, so she has big shoes to fill, but she is doing a wonderful job. Our comm center is the pride and joy of comm centers because they answer calls 99% of the time in 10 seconds or less, which is a great accomplishment for the amount of people and the only PSAP here in Portage County answering these calls. They received 108,000 telephone calls, 42 texts and 911, and the breakdown of those are 18,000 emergent, 89,000 non-emergent. That's about 9,000 calls per month, 298 calls a day. So when you look at it too, and these are not all calls for service, there's about 59,000 calls for service for an officer, an ambulance, or something like that. On page 24, you can also see all the agencies that they dispatch for. It's not just the sheriff's office, it's every municipality, it's every fire, it's every ambulance service, the other municipal law enforcement officers. Division of Emergency Management, page 28. As I stated, they're going to be starting the hazard mitigation plan. This is a big deal for Portage County because last time we spent a lot of money to contract this out. We have an actual emergency manager and a deputy emergency management, and they wanted to take this on, so we are letting them go with this, and we are very excited for them to conquer this task. But you can see some of the many things that our emergency management does throughout the county in regards to disaster plans, emergency operation plans, facility on-site response, and then all the exercise and training that they do and sponsor throughout the county. I think it's important to understand that these people have so much they can do with so little time. So they are extremely busy. And I'm breezing over some things because I do know you guys are extremely busy. Let's go to the EMS division. Again, back in 2018 on page 33, Portage County, or the Sheriff's Office, took the Emergency Medical Service Division under our control. In that time, we contract with Stevens Point, Plover, and Amherst for our ambulance service, and we have 11 different first responder groups out throughout the county that we contract with and give grant money to. You can also see, I know that Supervisor Medine asked me about this on page 35, is why is that green line flat? And if anybody can guess, it's because of the Medicare rate. Hasn't increased, so our billables go up, but our actual receiving of money stays pretty flat. So that is in regards to, and you can also see on page 34 in regards to the call volume. Call volume for ambulances and first responders do not go down every year. They keep increasing. So from the advanced life support and basic life support, we're almost getting to 4,000 calls per year for an ambulance throughout the county. So it's only increasing. And then if you look at Corrections Division, like I said, we had a big turnover in this last year, fully staffed. We would have 26 full-time corrections officers, 5 full-time corrections corporals, corporal sergeant, a juvenile detention superintendent, and a corrections captain. That is when we're fully staffed, so right now we're 1 short. Technical improvements through upgrades throughout the jail. If you see the first one, it's $321,000 for a new control panel for the jail because it has to handmade because of our technology that's in that jail right now. So they have to actually do it specific to our facility since it's outdated. But we're lucky enough, I wrote a grant for the Derek Van Orton Community Projects through the federal government, which got approved, I was told. And that money is going to be coming out of that along with a improved security cameras for all Portage County. So very lucky to get something like that so we can save taxpayers and get some of that money for Portage County. You can also see the life check system that I talked about. That's our body camera and also our mental health checks for our facility. That was enacted with my last grant that I wrote through the Ron Kine Community Foundation. These are body cameras for our corrections. So we have two different companies, and the reason why we did that is because the life check system is so much better for the jail compared to the Axon one that the officers wear out on the road. But you can see in regards to, for the wellness checks, to documenting cell checks on suicidal people and all these individuals, along with people that are confrontational in the jail, are all under body camera now. Was that my 3-minute notice?
No.
Oh. We have the Stellar Lockdown inmate software that changed a while back, but that is very productive for us because that does not change. Nobody touches money. It goes into the system. Today we had somebody have $50,000 cash that posted. So, I mean, you have large amounts of money that go into the Stellar system, but officers don't handle any of the money anymore. So it's really good. It's good for the inmates because they can see what's on their accounts. They can have people add money to that Stellar system for their commissary and all different sorts of things. Also, this last year, we went to an RFP in regards to jail communications and or for inmate communications. And what we went to is called a company called Reliant Telephone. So once an inmate is booked into our facility, they now get a tablet so they can actually have their visitation, their commissary, juvenile, or the handbook in regards to the jail rules. And if they have a grievance, they want to file it, they can talk with the inmates or with the staff right through that tablet, and it's right in their cell, and it's assigned to them. So it used to be where they had to stand in the cell, and the picture would be on there, and they'd be able to talk like that. Now they can do it right in their cell. So it is monitored, so people are, have concerns in regards to the text and the telephone, but it is monitored, and it is also certain words and things like this that can't be on there. So it's not just free access. Operational improvements, we upgraded the Tech 84 with a longer warranty in regards to it, but that is the body scan that comes into the jail that has saved us from having a gun, weapons, and drugs throughout our facility. The minute they come in, it's a full body scan, and it's not as intrusive as a full body search. For food service, we went to RFP again. Every couple of years, we have to go to RFPs for all this, and so this was the year that we did quite a few. Summit Food came out on top again. We contract with them. Usually our contract runs between $150,000 to $200,000 for the adult side and about $30,000 for the juvenile in regards to the meal prices. And it is getting more costly because of staffing and for special diets throughout the facility. Health services, we contract with Southern Health Partners. That is about $160,000 a year, which gives us a full-time jail nurse 5 days a week, which changed, I think it was last year or 2 years ago, because we only had a 20-hour nurse, and we need that full-time nurse in there for evaluations, not only for mental health, but also for prescription meds for dispersing. And then you can see in regards to mental health treatment, and also on the next couple pages, all our programs that we do throughout the facility. We do have a full-time social worker that is paid for by HHS. That is imperative that we keep this position and have that in our jail because that is our evaluation for mental health, alcohol and drug abuse services, and all the trauma abuse, veterans, chaplain, education on where they should go, who they should get services for. They set those services up for us. They set the rooms up. They set everything so that our jail staff do not have to do that. So it's very imperative that the social worker, and she does a wonderful job for us. You can see the daily population through Portage County. You can see that 2021 and 22 with the COVID years, we actually were down. I can tell you that this year, our average daily population right now is averaging about 126. So you can see that the tick is back, progressively going up, and it has nothing to do with more arrests or anything. It's that people are getting to court and their sentences are coming up because there were a lot of deferred sentences and a lot of things like that going on. But you can see also that the shipping population that we use for a contract, and right now I think the contract's 486,000 was last year. We're looking at increasing it to 40 people because our average daily shipping right now is 40.8. So when we when we go over our number, we usually get charged more, or if Wapaka, where we contract, doesn't have beds, we have to go somewhere else, which can be extremely a lot more. And you can see the electronic monitoring program. As you know, I heard something about philosophy, and I want to say that right now. Philosophy of always has been second chances, getting people out in the society, being productive, making sure that they can be productive, but there has to be law and order, and after second chances are done, there has to be consequences for their actions. So my electronic monitoring program is big to me because I think it saves the county a lot. It keeps out Huber, people that are available to work and stay at home. It saves the county approximately $146,000 a year while doing this program. Juvenile, we had to close down a wing of the juvenile to increase our adult this year and last year. That is why you're seeing the numbers a little bit lower. And I've talked to our finance director and I've talked to our juvenile superintendent and our captains of operations that that's a revenue that we usually have a lot more because people are in need of the juvenile beds throughout the state. We're making sure we have them here for Portage County kids, but right now we have been turning away a lot because we don't have the space because we closed off one of the dorms to make it an adult section. We are looking for reopening that and bringing back in the juvenile dorm. And as you can see, in regards to page 49, it talks about the shipping, the costs of the contract. Last year was 486,000. With the transport costs, it was 661,000, and the cumulative cost since 2001 is 13,881,000. Records division, we had a turnover last year. We had one person leave, another one come in. We have 4 record specialists, or 3 record specialists, a lead record specialist, and the administrative service supervisor. They do everything. If you look at the duties, I can't praise them enough because they keep the sheriff's office running smoothly, because without them, with the records requests and everything that is required up there, they do an outstanding job. So please take a look at all their duties that they do. But you can see on page 54 some of the challenges that they had. With the technology that comes in, with the new CAD system, with the body cameras, with everything, they have to know it better than the officers because they have to do the records release. They have to do the redactions. So they have to have all that information and all the understanding of the softwares. Also, we launched a new website because I think we all changed the computers, but they were instrumental in regards to setting up the sheriff's office website page. And then last, we started a new request online called Next Request, and so they fulfill those records requests right online. Let's see here. You can see on page 60, this is some of the community engagement, and my guys, unlike many departments, they volunteer for this. They don't get paid for going out to these events. They don't get any extra time. They don't get anything. They do it for the love of the community, and I strongly encourage that. And matter of fact, in all my interviews, we talk about that in regards to giving back to the people that give to us. And then you can see on the last 2 pages, that's just some of the awards that we gave out through the year. We are, I will say, terrible at doing this because we should do a lot more of it, but it kind of goes by the wayside, and then you remember it, and it's a couple minutes later. So we are getting better at that, and every public safety meeting, at the beginning of the meeting, we have an awards, and this one we're going to have an award for a private citizen that did something special. So Any questions? Yes, Bob.
Yeah, Sheriff Lucas, you know, when I was reading through the report at home this afternoon, thing that really stuck out to me was your injury report listing. And I wanted to get to the point of how much of this is owing to the act of apprehending people that are under extreme behavior because of drug ingestion. Can you speak to that at all? And also the question that came to my mind is, would it help to, unless you already have it, have a multidisciplinary team on site so they could deal with a person that's, you know, undergoing extreme behavior in this way?
You know, Marathon County went to the CART team, and I remember a former county board talking to me, and I did a lot of research in regards to having a crisis team that would be available. The problem is the population doesn't, I would say, not require it, but I think we would have trouble utilizing a CART team. So we actually looked in regards to, I mean, we do all the training for the mental health for every officer, corrections officer, dispatch. Every division has our training for mental health and how to deal with people like that.
So they bring the skills to the encounter with them, and
Yeah.
yeah, okay.
For the de-escalation and everything that we try to do in regards to that, from presence dialogue and.
It's still alarming that the number went up by that much to me.
And I will say in the corrections facility, we have more injuries. And if you look at that, when we talk about the use of force, it's because it's in a confined space. You know, they're dealing with very agitated people at the time. So we have a lot of that, but I think the thing that has combated, and thank the state for this, is that Act 4 came out, which is allowing now the corrections officers are putting them in the protected status. Number one, for duty disability, and for number two, for earlier retirement. Otherwise, you have 67, 68-year-old corrections officers dealing with 20-year-old people that they're fighting with, and you're going to have injuries. So,
Anybody else?
Yes.
Thank you for that report, Sheriff Lucas. Not so much a question, I'm just going to take the opportunity, for those of us that live out in the outlying areas of the county, your deputies are among the first many a times to arrive on the scene of any crisis that we have out there. And be it you, whether it's your 911 operators right down to the deputies, all I'm hearing is words of praise, and the words that I'm hearing are helpful, professional, and reassuring. So if you would take the opportunity to thank each and every one of your employees for what they do for us out there in the outlying areas of the county. Thank you so much.
And there was one question I just want to address. Under the sheriff's office, under 59-3A, that addresses that the county board, or where the county board deems the sheriff's office, they have that right. So.
Thank you much.
I just want to make a comment too. I know that I attend those DOT updates with Mr. Contos, and they talk about the law enforcement officer that is on site for highway. And you had touched on that, but I don't know if the rest of us realize that incidents or whatever has come down by 50%. So I think it's other counties and stuff may be paying attention to it across the state because of what we had started or something that we've done to protect those workers when they're out there, so.
That is true. We're getting a lot of calls from other sheriff's office and county highway departments in regards to how we modeled this.
And for the rest of you that maybe didn't hear it, those individuals have 1/3 time with highway, 1/3 time at meetings, and 1/3 time with grants from the DNR and those type of things.
One-third times is the meetings and the community. So they're in the community, they have the DNR patrols, when they have the snowmobile, ATV, and boat patrols, they are the primary people on those vessels, and then they are the other third time on the highway.
Supervisor Machikowski.
Just to hit on the highway cooperation, that has been looked at by the Wisconsin Counties Highways Association. They're using Portage County as a model. You'll be seeing it in other counties here next year, and I'm sure the sheriff's taking a lot of calls on it. The highway department's taking a lot of calls on it. It's great. The workers love it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Number 4, review and approval of February 20th, 2024 minutes. Motion by Supervisor Dubek. Seconded by Supervisor Keller. Discussion. There's no discussion. All those in favor with aye? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Confirmation of County Executives Committee appointments. Number 5, various appointments to Local Emergency Planning Committee as follows for the 4-year term expiring April 20th, 2028. And the names as printed. Motion by Supervisor Jankowski, seconded by Supervisor Rockman. Discussion. There's no discussion. All those in favor with aye? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Number 6, approving and authorizing a letter of intent from Sam Folmans stating his interest in purchasing the Portage County Healthcare Center and also establishing a county ad hoc committee. Motion by Supervisor Matt Jakowski, seconded by Supervisor Oki. Discussion. Supervisor Matt Jakowski.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. With all the confusion, some of the yelling, oh, sorry, I apologize. With all the confusion, some of the yelling, false information being distributed, it's becoming increasingly hard for me to discern what is fact, what is fiction, and I have done some of my due diligence to try to find the bottom of this. It's hard, it takes time. That being said, I think this is an opportune time for us to pump the brakes and stop. Or at least slow. I feel it's not proper to put this monumental task of doing their due diligence on an ad hoc committee of 3 chairs, the county board chairman, and the county executive. It's not fair to have them look at every nook and cranny in this letter of intent. I think we should send this back to the 3 committees. That'll give us at least a month, maybe more, to research all the information that's been provided to us. And thank you for those of you that have provided information. It will be helpful in our future. If Mr. Folman cannot afford to wait that long, I wish him all the luck in his future adventures. But I think we as a county need to pump the brakes. With that being said, I move that we send this back to the Space and Properties, Healthcare Center, and Finance Committees to meet on in May.
Second, Mr. Chair.
Motion by Supervisor Matt Jakowski to send it back to the 3 committees, seconded by Supervisor Barry Jakowski. Discussion. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor with aye? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Opposed? Motion carries. Next item, number 7. Resolution authorizing and enacting revisions to Code of Ordinance, Section 3.1.48, Boards and Committees Administrative Requirements. Take a motion. Motion by Supervisor Rakowski, seconded by Supervisor Barry Jakowski. Discussion. Supervisor Rakowski.
I have a couple amendments to make this evening. The first one is under the 3.1.48 administrative requirements. It's about halfway down the page under parens 3. And the paragraph reads, "The purpose of public comment is to provide non-county board members of the public, that reside in Portage County an opportunity to speak, comment on certain meeting and agenda items." What we're looking to do is cross off non-county board and then add the words after members of the public. So it would read, "The purpose of public comment is to provide members of the public that reside in Portage County an opportunity to speak and comment on certain meeting agenda items."
So I'll take a second on that motion.
Seconded by Laddick.
Seconded by Laddick. Discussion on the amendment. If there's no further discussion on the amendment, all those in favor of the amendment, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Amendment carries. Back to the original resolution and as amended. Supervisor Rakowski, one more?
I have one more. It's under what's crossed off is parens G, it is now I. And it says, "Public comment is not permitted on personnel matters, confidential matters, legal cases, nor matters that are subject of judicial or quasi-judicial hearings." What we're looking at doing is crossing off and removing confidential matters, so it would read, "Public comment is not permitted on personal matters, legal cases, nor matters that are subject of judicial or quasi-judicial hearings."
I'll take a second on that. Second by
Repeat that,
Supervisor
please.
Hanel.
Could you repeat the proposed amendment, please?
Supervisor Rakowski.
Under parens I, what we are really looking to do is cross off and remove confidential matters in that sentence. So it would read, "Public comment is not permitted on personnel matters, legal cases, nor matters that are subject of judicial or quasi-judicial hearings."
I'll second that.
We have a motion by Supervisor Rakowski and a second by Supervisor Hanel. Any other discussion on the amendment? There's no other discussion on the amendment. All those in favor with aye? Aye. Aye. Opposed? Amendment carries. Supervisor Moresi.
I too have an amendment on number 7 of the ordinance. I'd like to propose we strike as a general rule. I tend to agree with former Supervisor Neville on this. She's a grammarian, and she really understands language. So I tend to agree with her on this. I'd also like to add, in regards to the surplusage that Attorney Hickethier referenced in the meeting, I advocated for referencing the open meetings law in this statement, just because we did strike out some important information. And I think if we reference that open meetings law, then when people are actually reading this ordinance, they'll know why we struck that out, and they'll have a place to go to. If we don't have it, they're just out there fending for themselves. I've done that myself numerous times, where I look up something, there's no reference to it, and then I have to, keep digging and digging for it. So I'd like to see that referenced in number 7 as well. If that's the appropriate location, Attorney Hickethier.
I guess what I would say is, in terms of that provision that strikes the language about actions being void, I don't know that I quite said that was surplusage. I was primarily talking about the follow-on provision, talking about the extreme emergency situation. I think obviously we all need to be mindful of complying with the open meetings law, and that requires specifically stated agenda items and that being timely published. The piece about this void action is really more designed to get after a situation where there might be an inadvertent omission of a document. So for example, if there were a resolution in the county board packet and there was a contract summary form at the committee level, but somehow it was omitted on the county board agenda, well, keeping this language as is, depriving the county board of the pertinent information in a contract summary form, I think doesn't do you justice. And if we kept this language as is, rather than providing at a later date than the publication of the county board agenda, for example, if we happen to notice 24 hours ahead of time that the contract summary form wasn't provided, we could provide that for your benefit. Whereas if we keep this current language, because of an inadvertently omitted contract summary form, if we tried to provide it, then that would be a void action. So that's really kind of more where that's trying to get after, that situation.
Thank you for that clarification.
And in that example as well, so that contract form you're talking about would have been in the committee.
Correct.
But it didn't make it to the board, so it was like it was out for the public once already, but because of that language, it wouldn't allow us to bring it in to the board.
And if we tried to do so, to provide sufficient information on that contract summary form to the county board with the existing language, if the county board tried to take action on it, it says it would be void. So we're just trying to provide additional benefit to the county board and supervisors if there's an omission, and we try to provide that information at a later date.
And Supervisor Moresi, I'd like you to ask these in two different questions or whatever, because of the fact if one person wants to vote yes for one and no for the other, it complicates it. Which way do you vote then on the amendment?
Then I will correct the amendment to strike, under number 7, to strike as a general rule. And that will be the first amendment.
First Amendment. Seconded by Supervisor Soik. Discussion on the amendment. Supervisor Soik.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I too have some questions as a general rule. Can we get a little background or legal advice on, as a general rule, why that was put in? And is it going to make a huge difference if it is taken out and just starts for all committee members or committee, board, council, and so on? So just a quick feedback on that, because I tend to agree with Supervisor Moresi, as a general rule should be stricken, but unless you can tell me otherwise.
I'll answer the last part first. It doesn't matter. It can be stricken.
Thank you.
The other additional clarifying point I would make is that in that same paragraph, we're making exceptions. So we state a rule, that's the general rule, but there are exceptions stated within that rule. And we do have other provisions in our ordinance that talk about as a general rule. But for these purposes, I think it's fine to strike it.
All right. Any other discussion on the amendment to strike the general rule? If there's no other discussion on the amendment, all those in favor with aye? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Amendment carries.
Now, the second part of that, and I'll apologize, Attorney Hickathir, because I really want to reference the open meetings law. Can you, and this is where I'm sorry, do you remember where that reference was made when we had the discussion?
I remember we had that discussion at the committee level, and I was just, there were a number of points brought up in these various ordinance changes or suggested or proposed changes. And my comment overall was basically, well, regardless of the ordinance, any of these changes, regardless, we still have to comply with Wisconsin open meetings law.
Right. And I can't remember exactly where it was, so I really do apologize for wasting the board's time on this. I'll forgo,
Okay.
since it's,
Anybody else have any other discussion on this? If there's no further discussion on the resolution as amended a few times, all those in favor with aye? Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Let's see, number 8. Abolishing the elective office of surveyor and designating that surveyor duties be performed by a full-time county employee surveyor. Motion by Supervisor Barry Jakowski, seconded by Supervisor Morrow. Discussion. There's no further discussion. I think this is a great asset that will find a lot of different areas in the county and be well utilized and well used in the future. So, again, Stan, did you have your hand up? You have a comment?
I was gonna make the motion.
Okay, nope. I'll watch for you on the next one. All those in favor with aye? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
One.
Supervisor Soik, opposed. Motion carries. Number 9, approving and authorizing a contract with Dewberry Architects, Inc. to provide courthouse concept design services for the extensive remodeling. Motion by Supervisor Matt Jakowski. Anybody else? Seconded by Supervisor Medine. Discussion. Supervisor Honnold.
To use Matt's words, or Supervisor Jakowski's words, I think the brake should get put on this until we have a definitive answer regarding a the location of the jail, law enforcement center. I don't think we should proceed to spend more money on architects to redesign a courthouse that may or may not be connected to a jail and a law enforcement center.
I had expressed the same thoughts at the committee level, that until we know where, I am not in favor of spending more money, doing more studies, looking at more things, where right now we currently have two options, one 1039 as well as this spot. They could be added into the master plan, but I have a funny feeling that that courts probably won't be done until 10 years from now. I don't believe any of us will be sitting here.
Point of
at
order,
that
Mr.
time.
Chair.
Supervisor Matt Jakowski.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If you look at the second to last, be it further resolved, I made this amendment at the Space and Properties meeting to include that each phase after Phase 1 will be approved by the Space and Properties Committee. Phase 1 is very cheap. Phase 1 is taking and looking at this whole county city building without the city's involvement. We have never done that. The city has expressed interest that they are looking at alternative locations and want to leave this building. That opens up the chance for us to see how stuff fits. With the city occupying it, we had the architect work on it, and they said there was no way that we could fit a modern court facility within this building. So after Phase 1 and each phase thereafter will need to be reapproved.
I'm sorry.
So that's your chance to stop the brakes.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, point of order. Do we have a motion and a second? And if we don't, why are we discussing?
We do.
Okay, I apologize.
It was Matt and Dave, Supervisor Jakowski and Supervisor Medine. Thank you, though.
Yep, sorry.
Supervisor Barry Jakowski, you had your hand up?
Yeah, I did, and Matt clarified my question a little bit. As I read through this, didn't understand it completely. Guess now that it's come before the board, because I too had the question popping into my head here that, we're spending, but I do now understand if we should look at the situation where the city, if that became an opportunity, that there may be room, and let's not get the cart ahead of the horse. So.
Supervisor Moresi.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess I would have the question of, does this building footprint even allow for 3 courts in a new remodel design, but I guess more importantly for the future 4th court? That's what I wonder, if this might be a little premature as well, in terms of, does it serve our needs in the future? So I'd like to push the brakes on this unless somebody has insight into that.
Supervisor Jankowski.
Phase 1 would tell us if this building is doable as a court system. And when we get done with Phase 1, we could end the study completely, or we could continue on depending on what we find out. Right now, we don't know if the building would be susceptible to being a courthouse in the newest form. That's what we're trying to find out in Phase 1.
Supervisor Matt Jakowski.
Supervisor Moresi just brought up a good point. He said, do we know if 4 courts will fit in this building? Well, if we don't approve this resolution tonight, we'll never know if 4 courts would fit in this building. So let's do this first phase. We have an out on it where we can stop after Phase 1, and we don't have to continue.
So I heard you say Phase 1 was cheap. Do you know what cheap, roughly what that dollar amount
It
is?
was under the threshold where it had to come to the county board. I want to believe I was told 19,000.
Yeah, so it has to be under 25, is that right?
70.
It's under 25, okay. Thank you.
Oh, it is listed.
Supervisor Honnold.
I like the idea of the phasing, but I'd like to see after Phase 1 that the report come back to the full board rather than just rest with the committee. Could you consider that?
Is that a motion?
I'm thinking about how the resolution's written. Because I believe if the board approves it tonight, unless there's some language that each one of them would have to come back to the board, they're approving all four of them tonight. Is that correct? So, the way the resolution is written right now, Supervisor Honnold, if we approve this, the committee can look at it and approve it and go to the next phases without coming to the board, unless you would like to make an amendment to that. Is that permissible? Think so?
Then I would like to propose an amendment, that if we go ahead and we accept this proposal, that we go ahead with Phase 1, but that prior to Phase 2, 3, or 4, that it come back to the full board, versus just the committee, not discounting the work that the committee does, but I believe that in an effort to keep the whole process very transparent, I think that more of this information will get looked at, discussed by the entire board, and that the community might be better informed as to the process.
Yeah.
That's the reason for the amendment.
I need to get a second by Supervisor Moresi, and the amendment was to have each of the steps come back to the full county board before they
Correct.
proceed.
Just for clarification, when this resolution was being put together by staff to move forward to the Space and Properties Committee, Phase 1 and Phase 2 are both under $100,000. So the first phase is under 25. That can move forward just with director approval according to our own ordinance. Anything under $100,000 can move forward through the committee level approval, over 25 up to 100,000. It's not a requirement to come to this body until it reaches 100,000. But because of the way that it was put together in the multiple level of phasing, to be transparent, it was discussed to bring it here so that the full board understood the different components of the contract. So I just wanted to point out the ordinance that we have that wouldn't require Phase 1 to have any approval, and Phase 2 would only require Space and Properties Committee approval, that it really technically wouldn't require any county board approval until Phase 3.
Supervisor Matt Jakowski, or I'm sorry, Barry Jakowski, then Supervisor Moresi.
I guess I'd just like to thank those committees for bringing it here. Good work, guys.
Supervisor Moresi, then Supervisor Medine.
My question would be if we agree to Supervisor Honnold's amendment, does that take precedent over our ordinance, or are we violating ordinance?
I'm just pointing out what your ordinance states so that you're all aware.
Yeah, the reason being is that we're going to have a bunch of new supervisors, potentially have a bunch of new supervisors coming up here. And these phases, they're going to need to be brought up to speed on each decision that's made. While I understand it's precedent to allow the committees to do that heavy lifting and bring it to the county board, I think with a bunch of new personalities and folks needing to understand the committee process, the decision-making process, and how this building process is going to go, we really need to have each phase come back to this full board for discussion. And that could be very simple. That could be a very simple discussion and fulsome and very open and transparent. Thank you.
Supervisor Medine.
We had asked that question at the committee level, and our procurement director had stated that, and who drafted this, stated that in order to do the Phase 1, they may have to do some work within Phase 2, the structural, in order to figure out how to do the concept. And so then we retracted our request to do that, because they do have they will take some additional initiative in order to complete number 1. And so they suggested that it's only fair to allow some continuity in our thought process at the committee level. And that's why, and I took that to heart, and that's why I think that I would probably not want to support that amendment because of the way that they described it. They will actually do some work essentially free of charge.
Please use the mic, Mr. Supervisor Medine.
Excuse me, I should direct it at the chairman also, I'm sorry. They will do some work in advance that may be presented as free of charge in order to complete the first phase. And so we thought that it was proper to have the resolution the way it was with the amendment that secured some of that thought process, that amendment that was made by Supervisor Jakowski at the committee level, so we amended it.
Supervisor Honnold, did you have your hand up or?
No.
No. Supervisor Gifford?
I think Supervisor Oki was ahead of me on that.
Supervisor Oki?
Oh.
Then
Oh, okay.
Supervisor,
Yeah, I just wanted to speak to the second point that Supervisor Honnold made in making her amendment, and that is these committees should do their utmost to ensure that the public is being kept well informed about this, all these changes, all phase one and whatever, because I have the sense that a lot of people in the general public, our citizens, are feeling like the board is kind of rushing towards some kind of change with the jail situation that's maybe less transparent than they would like, or that there's something going on that's not fully transparent. I don't know, but it just seems like maximize the communication out to the general public about what is being done in this phase one and so forth. Thanks.
now Supervisor Oki.
Thank you. This is just, oh, excuse me, just a point of clarification. My laptop is down. So if we're passing the resolution, it would include all 4 phases, is that correct?
This is an amendment to it.
I mean, we're talking about the, okay, so
Yep,
sorry.
we're talking about the amendment.
I'll bring
from
it back later.
Okay. Thank you. Any other discussion on the amendment? Supervisor Honnold?
Well, in response to Supervisor Medine's point, it could be modified if phase one and phase two are so intricately enmeshed, according to the committee, then perhaps following phase one and two combined, to come back to the full board, after phase three, and again after phase four. That might address the committee's concern.
So I'm stacking amendments.
Okay.
So
I think you need to vote on the First Amendment first,
Yep.
and if there's going to be a subsequent amendment to that.
Yep. So Supervisor Matt
Or
Jakowski.
the other option is to vote down the First Amendment, if that's going to be then a replacement motion.
Or withdraw it.
Mr. Chair, can I speak on the amendment? that's on the
Supervisor
floor?
Matt Jakowski.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to encourage each and every one of you to vote against this amendment. Space and Properties Committee, Purchasing, Finance, Facilities that all had their hand in this, could have went through with phase one and two and never brought it to the board's attention, because all it would have needed was director approval. They decided to package it and bring it back for your approval. I hear the public won't be informed. Every Space and Properties Committee meeting is posted on the website, just like every meeting. There's 2 of me in here. Every supervisor has the opportunity to attend those meetings. Every member of the public has the opportunity to attend those meetings. We're actually going against our own ordinance with this and saying, let's micromanage and go through approval after approval after approval. Are we going to start asking facilities when they buy a semi-truckload of toilet paper that we need to approve it?
Anybody else? Supervisor Keller.
I just want to say that if Part 1B is required to complete Part 1A, this summary form is improperly written, and it should read Part 1 is $93,130. It looks like we're playing games, and that is what the public hates to see. Thank you.
Anybody else? So we have an amendment on the floor yet, and I have a second on the amendment, correct? So we have to dispense with this amendment, and we either need to vote on it. I can't have them rescind it if they don't want to, so. All right, on the amendment to have these items all brought back to the board. All in favor with, we give Lee a chance here. So we might have a little ups and downs. And again, this is just on the amendment. Let me know when you're ready, Lee.
But, hey, Mr. Chair, can I?
Yes.
I got booted off a system for a while, and it took me a while to get back in. What's the amendment? What are we voting on now?
The amendment is on the contract for Dewberry Architect, and Supervisor Honnold has made an amendment to have each of the phases come back to the board as well for approval.
Okay, all right. And you're voting on the amendment now?
Yes.
Okay.
This is just the amendment.
Okay, I understand.
Okay.
Thanks.
It's ready? All those in favor of the amendment of having each of them brought back to this board, vote yes, and oppose no.
You guys see the big thingamabobber up there? Sorry. Got that stuff.
We're looking for an assistant.
Maybe he gets double salary.
Ready?
Yeah, it's up.
Okay.
Supervisor Laddick,
I'm a yes.
Supervisor Pataki,
No.
Supervisor Hakala,
No.
and Supervisor Sislevich.
You're muted.
No. Twelve ayes, 13 noes, motion fails.
The amendment fails. Back to the resolution as original. If there's any other discussion? You probably better clear it. Now, this is on the resolution for the Dewberry Architect with no amendments. You ready? All those in favor of the resolution say yes and oppose no.
Supervisor Laddick,
Yes.
Supervisor Pataki,
Yes.
Supervisor Hakala, and Supervisor Sislevich.
Yes.
By a vote of 20 to 5, motion carries.
Resolution carries. Number 10, authorizing a 2024 budget amendments and transfers. I'll take a motion in a second. Motion by Supervisor Rakowski, seconded by Supervisor Splinter. Discussion. Supervisor Dubek.
I don't know if I have to make an amendment or can we divide this up and have, there's like 7 of these, have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 7 as one package, and 6, which is the buying the land in Plover, as a separate one.
So let me help you with your amendment. Your amendment is to remove the land purchase from the other items.
Yes.
That are in this, okay. And I have a second by Supervisor Rockman.
Sorry.
and that is to remove the land from the other PAC. And I guess in the future, this makes it very difficult, folks, but we'll get through it, so. If there's no further discussion on the 6, that's everything but the land, I can go ahead and take a vote on that. Does anybody have any discussion or question on the 6 that are in this budget amendment or transfer? Supervisor Maciekowski.
Mr. Chair, just kind of a point of order, point of clarification here. I'd like to hear from Corp Counsel. Do we have to vote on that amendment to remove that one first and then vote on that? Or how's that work? I just want to make sure we're doing it right so somebody doesn't come back and say that opens meetings lost.
Yeah, actually, that's a fair point. I think that having the motion on the second to remove that land purchase budget adjustment, vote on that first. And if that's to remove it, then I would probably even act on that one and then go back to the others.
Okay.
Thank you, Counsel.
Thank you.
So now we are acting on the amendment to remove the land purchase
Budget adjustment.
budget adjustment from the rest of the PAC, okay? All those in favor of removing it from the PAC, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No. No.
No.
So raise your hands and no so the clerk can get it.
Got it.
Thank you. Amendment carries. Now we'll
Now we
vote.
would vote on that one.
Now we're going to vote on the land.
Yes.
So I'll take, I need to get it on the floor. I need to take a motion to get the land purchase on the floor. Motion by Supervisor Henrich, seconded by Supervisor Barry Jakowski. Discussion. Supervisor Gifford.
Yeah, thanks. You know, I've spent some time looking over a big packet of documents that I got from a candidate for supervisor right now. And it's come to U.S. Department of Justice National Institute of Corrections and deals with, the one I'm looking at right now, jail planning and expansion. Nowhere in these documents does it speak to separating jail widely from the court, okay? In fact, there are some paragraphs that talk about the need to have court and jail closely built together with very secure passage from one to the other, very secure courtroom settings, which I know our judges have spoken about many times. So for that reason, I just think the going ahead with this land purchase is kind of like it's a big red flag that the plan is going to be to separate the jail widely from the courthouse, and for that reason, I'm a no vote on that. Thank you.
Supervisor Medine, then Supervisor Barry Jakowski.
I'll introduce my statements by restating the courthouse with associated support services and the day report center must stay in the central city area so offenders living in the nearby neighborhoods can have accessibility by foot or bicycle. Now I will address specifically the question. I have historically supported maintaining within the downtown area the full continuum of facilities that serve offenders, families, and victims. The Day Report Center, the Halfway House, the Family Crisis Center, the state-operated sex offender house, 2 short-term drug and alcohol recovery residences, plus numerous other refuges serving high-risk populations. All of these facilities are anchored in the downtown by the county-operated courthouse, the jail, and the sheriff's department, which have accessibility by foot or by bicycle. I have changed my mind, and I have concluded that the jail and the sheriff's department no longer need to be part of this downtown continuum. The jail and the sheriff's department proposed by the architect is simply too big to fit in the downtown with its accessory 1/2 acre fleet garage, 1/3 acre maintenance building, and 1 1/4 acre, $26 million parking ramp. Additionally, a proposed jail and sheriff's department site on 42 acres near the highway garage in Plover would allow for future expansion and additional treatment facilities to be located at that site. Also, the sheriff has stated the north-south arteries leading to the downtown site in Stevens Point will have only one lane in each direction and would not be safe for emergency high-speed squad cars. The sheriff also stated most of the court appearances can be performed remotely from the jail, which would not require personal appearances in the courthouse. The sum of the matter is the sheriff and the sheriff's department and the jail should be moved to Plover. The courthouse alone, and I want to repeat that, the courthouse alone, without an adjoining jail, can anchor all of the existing continuum of downtown facilities that serve offenders, families, and victims. And thus, the courthouse must stay downtown. But I'm hearing very little opposition to the proposal to separate the two buildings from either county board members or city hall.
Supervisor Barry Jakowski, did you have your hand up?
I did, but nothing at, thank you for recognizing me, Mr. Chair, but nothing at this time.
Anybody else? Supervisor Matt Jakowski.
All along through this process, I've heard multiple times a conspiracy theory that we're moving the courthouse out of downtown. I believe it would take something like 18,000 signatures to do that. State statute says that you cannot do that. I haven't heard of anybody starting to collect 18,000 signatures. And if somebody does collect 18,000 signatures and puts it to the will of the people, and the will of the people speak and say that it should be moved downtown, out of downtown, isn't that democracy at its finest? We want to be able to allow people to have a healthcare center referendum, but we don't want to allow people to have a referendum to move the county seat. It's kind of interesting that some of those are the same people. Again, state statute says that you cannot move the courthouse out of the county seat unless you move the county seat. And 18,000 signatures is a pretty surmountable task. And making sure they're all valid, we all saw that happen at the state level here recently with the recall effort that they weren't able to get 10,000 signatures. So think about that a little bit.
Anybody else? Supervisor Laddick.
Sheriff wants
Hi, thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to echo my support and agree with Supervisor Medine. I think we have the perfect piece of property to move forward with this project. So all I got to say, thanks.
Supervisor Pataki.
Why would we even put out a referendum and be breaking the law, all right? If the law states it should be in a county seat, that's where it should be.
Supervisor Dodge.
So did I hear Representative Shanklin say that the sheriff's office must be in the county seat?
We'll let the sheriff answer that.
Please do.
Yeah, if you look under 5920, parent 3, parent A, that states the county board can deem that, if there is no county sheriff's office, they can deem where the sheriff's office is. So that was misstated by somebody.
But it's not mandated.
Correct. And then the other thing too is somebody also stated that there is no separation throughout the county. Perfect example, which is a huge separation, is take a look at Brown County. Brown County is 7 miles from their jail. The sheriff's office separated from their jail separated from their courts. It's in a triangle and it's 7 miles from each. So I talked to the sheriff in regards to how that works, in regards to the remote things, and it works very good for Brown County. So that's just one example.
So you touched on the remote part of it, and I don't know what the future will bring with the remote, but we have those people that have had contact with our judges and stuff. There was an incident in Las Vegas here not too long ago where somebody lunged over at the court or at the judge. And I think in the future for security, as one of the best security measures is to probably have things more virtual than they are now because it keeps people separated. So we may see that a lot more in the future.
And the other thing too is there is going to be a sheriff's office right in the courts because we still have court security that will be doing the court security here up in the sheriff's office also.
Could I provide one additional point on that? Is that Wisconsin statute 5954 subparagraph 14 specifically states that the jail need not be at the county seat.
Correct. And actually, where the person stated that the sheriff's office has to be, Brown County is not in the city of Green Bay on the county seat.
Supervisor Barry Jakowski.
Sheriff, I believe.
Use the mic, please.
I apologize to everybody. I believe if the sheriff could clarify, I believe our inmates that are in Wapaka County are approximately 40 miles away.
It's 30, 38, I think it is, or something like that.
Yeah, approximately 40, yeah.
Supervisor Splinter.
Last fall, excuse me, my voice is going. Last fall, I heavily promoted having a informal poll of all 25 supervisors about the jail and courthouse issue. And it was unanimous on that informal poll that we would keep the courthouse downtown and put the jail out on a green space site. That is making progress and getting things done. We've been dilly-dallying with this whole process for 25 years. It keeps going back and nothing gets done. And even after that informal poll, people start rehashing and they say, oh no, I want to have the jail downtown again. So they want to pull us back into this impasse of not doing anything. We're elected to do something and move forward. And I think it's time we did. Thank you.
Supervisor Barry Jakowski.
No, my memory gets poor. Thank you, Mr. Chair. My memory gets poor, but wasn't the informal poll deemed unlawful by Corp Counsel at the time?
It doesn't have any,
No, I don't recall that. And
authority to it, so. It was informational if it was, I don't remember it either, but Supervisor Morassi.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would just like to encourage us to remember that there is an election in about less than 2 weeks. And we're kind of pushing a decision forward a little quickly. I think we have 180 days on closing for the contract. If this idea is good right now, it will be good in May after we reorganize the county board and have new membership here for us to educate and make a decision. I would urge you all to vote no on this, so because if it truly is a good idea, it will stand the test of time for a few weeks here, and we can vote on this in May.
if I can speak to that just briefly, it was this board in February that approved the vacant land offer to purchase, and that resolution did contain a provision stating that the funding for that would be coming back by separate resolution. So now it is this same board that is considering the same act that it approved previously.
There you go. Anybody else have any other discussion? Supervisor Keller, then Supervisor Honnold.
You know, I just hate to bring this up, but I've been a board member for 2 years, and I have watched the same group of people try to throw a wrench in any single item that this county executive has tried to make happen. Like our legal advisor just said, it was this group that put the thing on the table. Let's do it. Let's get it done. Thank you.
Supervisor
I have not heard nor read information about the long-term implications for the village, the town, city, the county, especially Plover. Have they been involved in this process, or do we have a conflict of interest?
Maybe Bill can speak to his interactions with the village.
Who? Bill?
Schofield. Is Bill still here?
I don't see, is Bill Schofield here?
I'm here.
You're hiding, aren't you, Bill? Can you come up to the podium?
Watching TV. Bill.
Up to the podium, please.
So I'm not sure if you heard that, Bill, but was just the question about the village's level of involvement here. And this is Bill Schofield, the county's broker here for this transaction. So if you could maybe speak to that, thank
The
you.
village has been consulted administratively wide from the very start, working with the Warzellas as well as with the county executive and so on. And I believe the county chair has had some discussions. They feel that moving this decision forward was something that should happen now. It was a great opportunity. The Warzella family said, we'll offer this land, even though we're farmers and we'd like to keep farming it, but we'll give this community and this area the first opportunity to make this move forward. So yes, they are in support. We will go to annexation and zoning and such before the contract is fulfilled. So all those answers will be done. We've already answered the sewer, water, municipal service questions and so on. So a great deal of work was done prior to even advancing it to this stage.
Thank you. Supervisor Arnold.
Okay, earlier this evening, I heard that we have 16 acres of land that we already own in the city.
The nursing home is
60
what they're referring
yes, So,
to?
and if that facility were to come down, wouldn't we have plenty of room for courthouse, law enforcement center to be built on 16 acres of land? And why not bring the nursing home down next to Lincoln Center?
That's not on the agenda. That's not the question before us.
Okay, so the fact that we own 16 acres of land already, but we're talking about purchasing another 40. Okay, thank you.
Yes. Supervisor Oki.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think the concerns or issues that I'm hearing from my constituents speaks to the acreage that's being purchased. And no one wants to corral this project from moving forward. But if words they heard are that the property will not be broken up into acreage, so you take it as it is in its full entirety, or you can't have any at all. It just seems like those messages aren't received that well. So they have concerns about the acreage that's being purchased for a project that doesn't need it. And I understand about future vision and planning for the future. But I think that maybe a better plan needs to be presented. Thank you.
Supervisor Machakowski.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to respond to Supervisor Oki's worries about the amount of land being purchased. If you factored in everything on the offer that the city gave us for 18 acres, this chunk of land for 42 is cheaper than what the city had offered us in East Park Commerce area. Number one. Number two, by the nature of that parcel, for Warzellas to keep farming it, they wouldn't be able to split part of it off and keep farming it. It's just not a compatible use next to it. Point number three, we're taking 42 acres of agricultural production out of the Little Plover River watershed. That's been a priority of this board. It's been a priority of the Village of Plover. It's been a priority of the Little Plover River Work Group to return as much of that land back to non-agricultural use as possible. That's part of the reason that the County Highway Department, that all of you voted for the wetland mitigation project up there in that Little Plover River watershed. That was part of the reason. This gives us an opportunity to take that 42 acres out of production, put it into a jail facility, and extra land. Extra land never hurts. You know, we are seeing more and more uptick with mental health. We've talked about drug problems more and more. I, in the future, can see taking the jail expansion, not expanding jail beds, but expanding mental health services, expanding AODA services. And again, our people that are in Wapaka County right now, if you want to kick this can down the road some more, our people that are in Wapaka County right now are getting none of those services. None. They don't get to get their GED. They don't get to work for it. They don't get the opportunity for AODA counseling. And, you know, I'm sure Wapaka does a good job of taking care of our prisoners, or excuse me, inmates, they're not prisoners, our inmates, but they do not offer them any programming. Let's bring our inmates home, get them what they need, and get them back as productive members of society.
Supervisor Peterson.
I will iterate same as Matt. The only thing is, in business, we have bought land just to distance you from other people getting it that would not be friendly to what you did initially buy. Say if you bought that 20, somebody could come in beside that and make it, what do you say, down the road, unfriendly for you being there. This way you already control that full 40.
And not to put words in Bill Schofield's mouth, but, you know, this is what the Borzella family is, the seller is offering to us.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the offer.
But if they would, would split it, why then they could sell it to somebody else and then you'd be in the same position that we are now. We're landlocked here.
Laddick. Supervisor Laddick.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll just make one last comment. Buying this land is going to be the cheapest part of the whole project.
Anybody else? Supervisor Moresi, then Supervisor Keller.
One final question, because it was brought up early, and I do have some concerns. Supervisor Haga and Supervisor Fritz, you are both trustees in Plover. I am concerned about a conflict of interest. Will you be recusing yourself from the vote tonight?
No, I will not. So, Mr. Hickether, can you speak to that?
He's not on both sides of a transaction, so he doesn't have anything to do with the seller. So there's no conflict. He's not on the both sides of the same contract.
Nor when there were other, Supervisor Johnson was here as well. So, Supervisor Keller.
Okay, I just want to address the fact that the seller is offering us 40 acres. They don't want to have to try sell two separate parcels of 20 acres. So with respect, I suggest we honor that. The fact that they don't want to split it doesn't mean it can't be split. So we buy it, we decide whether or not to put a jail on it. We're just buying a piece of land at this point, right? So down the road, we can rent part of it or we can sell part of it, doesn't matter.
Supervisor Barry Jakowski.
Just a quick note of history. Used to be every town chairman was a member of this board, not very long back in history either.
I know we've talked before about kicking the can down the road, and I wonder if not this, then what? And again, I believe that the land is the cheapest part of this, and for us to have a little bit extra land, I know there has been other discussion that if the jail were to come down or we were vacating it, that's where our records are stored. We may need a place for records. We may need a place for facilities to have a garage. Guess what? We have the land. most of the people that oppose this are in the city of Stevens Point. And I want to remind you, the city of Stevens Point owns somewhere between 800 and 1,400 acres of land, and I think they're talking about purchasing some more. I don't know if any of you have ever gone down there and opposed one piece or one parcel of that land from being purchased or continued to add to that and taken off the tax rolls and on the back of all of the rest of us. So I think it's about time that Portage County owns a little bit of land and has some options. The courts were in this building where the DA is located right now, and they outgrew that. 10 years, then they went across the street and they used every square inch of the land that was across the street. And I don't know if it was 10 years later, they didn't have enough room. Why would we keep repeating that? Let's have enough space to grow in the future and not have ourselves hamstringed. We need to be looking far enough out to the future, and I'm not talking 5, 10, 15, I'm talking 50, 20, 50, 70 years out into the future. And again, the majority of us voted to approve this. The people that talk about the inmates that are in there must really be in a quandary because of the fact that we need to do more for our inmates. But yet here we are, we're going to postpone and drag this out even longer. So if there's no other discussion,
Hand over here.
Somebody had their hand up. Supervisor Fritz.
I'd like to clarify for this board that Mr. Haga and I are Village of Plover trustees also, but the land is in the town of Plover. And I believe there is no conflict of interest there at all. And that's all I have. Thank you.
So if there's no further discussion on the resolution to purchase the land, all those in favor?
Budget adjustment, yep.
On the, this is the amendment to purchase the land. All those in favor with aye and opposed no. And we're using the clicker, so.
Supervisor Laddick,
Yes.
Supervisor Pataki,
Yes.
Supervisor Hakala. Is that a no?
Was that a no?
No.
Supervisor Sislavich.
Yes.
And this needs 2/3. 17?
Kind of a done deal.
Vote of 17 ayes to 8 nays. Motion carries.
So now, back to the other 6 items that were on this resolution. Discussion on those other 6 items that were on the resolution originally.
Just for clarification, on both my votes, I voted yes, and I end up with a no. That was, both of them came out that way. I don't know if this is wrong or what, but
Misfire.
Did it show a 1 when you hit it?
I hit 1, yes. That was on both of those. The first one, I let that go. This one definitely should be a yes.
We do it.
So can we, I don't know, what's, we have to
I don't know. He's
technology.
Supervisor Jankowski is
We-
clarifying and making.
We won, technically, but
No,
my
the-
vote should have been a yes.
No, the motion passed.
Yes.
Yeah, but he's
wants-
clarifying
wants
his
to be
statement that
on
his vote was
I'm not
electronically not corrected.
Noted in the minutes.
Yeah.
Okay. Back to the resolution of the other 6 items that were on it. Is there any discussion on that? If there's no discussion on those, I'll take a voice vote. All those in favor with aye? Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries, or resolutions carry. Are we good?
Yes.
Okay. Number 11, approving and authorizing a 3-year renewal with CDW Government LLC to provide service licensing and maintenance service. Take a motion. Motion by Supervisor Oki, seconded by Supervisor Rakowski. Discussion. we made IT stay here for this whole thing. We could at least talk. You don't want to talk to anybody. All those in favor with aye? Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Number 12, revision to Portage County Ordinance, Section 3.11, County Health Resources Policy, 3.11.9, Paren 6, holidays. I'll take a motion. Motion by Supervisor Dubek, seconded by Supervisor Rockman. Discussion. If there's no discussion, all those in favor with aye? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I'll take a motion to adjourn. Motion by Supervisor Barry Jakowski, seconded by Supervisor Hemrick. All in favor with aye? Aye. Opposed? We're adjourned. Thank you.
A video of this meeting is available for viewing on the city's website, stevenspoint.com/videos.